Um, for me, I mean, I was driving the other day. Today's actually Sage's birthday. And I was driving just thinking about kind of like what we were going to do for her birthday and everything. And it it made me reflect for a minute of where I was at this same current time, for her birthday a year ago. And that was exactly like I just began to like thank God so much, and I was just like that's what I need to like share. I need to share how, just how faithful God has been, and that regardless of what situation you could be in, how ugly it could look or hopeless or frustrating, that it's not the end of the story, and that you can get through something. And but just about a year ago, I mean, in March, really, we just started to kind of struggle financially, like within our family. It kind of went from like a big high in February. I celebrated my daughter's first birthday, and then I was like a surprise engagement for me, and it was like a super amazing moment for me. And then it kind of all kind of crashed down in March, and it was we began to struggle, and we kind of had to put a hold. We were working really hard at just fixing our credit, to purchase our first home. Of course, we were excited about, just being engaged and like planning a wedding. And then just the normal things, paying bills and things. And I handle all the bills in my home. So it was like every single month to go through all the bills. Like I have a calendar, and that's kind of how I organize them all. It would give me anxiety because I was like, mathematically, there's no way this money's stretching to pay all this. So like, how am I doing this? And then I'd be frustrated because I'd have to touch a credit card that I knew if I took that much, it was going to ruin the hard work I did to my credit, and then of course, I mean, what parent of course wants to supply their kids' needs, but then you want to get them some things that they want, or that you just want for them. And I remember being in a store, and my daughter she's like, we joke all the time, she shows so many like athletic traits. She's real rough around the edges. She's not the graceful type. And she loved playing with this basketball thing at daycare, and I like really wanted to get her one. I have so many pictures of me doing the same thing. I played basketball like my entire childhood into high school. And I remember um, I remember getting a gift card. So I was like, okay, I got this gift card, I can use this, and I can get her this like basketball hoop. And I went to the store, and they didn't have it at the store with the gift card. So then I was like all bent out of shape and like frustrated over this basketball like hoop, that I really wanted to get her, because I knew like it would be super irresponsible for me to drive to a store that had it and just like pay it out of pocket, knowing like all the bills and the things that we had. And I just caught myself for a minute, like really, really frustrated in the middle of the store. Like I was saying stuff under my breath. I had a horrible attitude. I was like angry at God. And then I was like envious of the parents that were just shopping around like with no care in the world. And I'm just like, that should be me. Like I worked so hard to have the job I have now and make the money I make now. And now I can't even afford like a freaking basketball hoop for my daughter. Like, it was just ridiculous. And then I stopped myself and I said, no, like if you can thank God when things are great, then you can thank God when things aren't great, because he's still the same great God. And I reversed it. And in the middle of the store, I just started thanking God for everything I had. I started praying, and I just told myself, like, that's what I need to do. I don't need to sit around with this like frumpy attitude because of things that I can't do. And then I remember even planning Sage's birthday last year. I had to use gift cards from my other daughter's birthday to help purchase things for the next daughter's birthday. And a lot of things were DIY and homemade. So trying to do all that while he's at work and I'm home with 3 kids, it was chaos. Like I'm baking a cake, I'm cooking, I'm just doing all these things that normally I would maybe just buy a cake, or we would just go somewhere and quickly celebrate and make it easy. But that just wasn't the situation this particular year. We had to borrow money for certain things. And little by little, it was like there was light at the end of the tunnel, you know, like God started showing through. It was a process of being faithful. But, you know, I remember maybe like not even a few days later, I remember my mom calling me like, hey, I got a few things for Nola. Whenever you get a chance, can you swing by? I mean, this is like a few days later. And I'm like, sure, yeah, you know, that's fine. And I go over and she's like, all right, I got to pull it out my trunk or my truck. And she pulls out a freaking basketball hoop. Like nobody told her to get it. And nobody told her I wanted that. I get this basketball hoop for my daughter. And I'm like, okay, God, like, you know, like you're awesome. And it was like, that would mean nothing to anybody else. But to me, it was like, I was driving home. Like you would have thought that basketball hoop was for me and not for Nola. Like seriously. And you know, he's been working for the post office for years and he was a sub for years. And the way it goes there, it's seniority. You know, next thing I knew, someone was retiring and he was signing paperwork to be on full time. You know, and then, you know, what I was getting a raise, you know, and it was just one thing after another. And then, you know, we were able to move back into focusing on our credit. And I just reflect a year later because I could sit here and go on and on. But when I reflected, you know, number one, all my needs are met. And I'm able to bless my children with some of their wants too. But more importantly for me, because of God's just faithfulness and being there, I'm also able to like help others. And that means the most to me. It's because I know what it's like to be in my situation and I know all the people that helped me when I needed help. And I want nothing more but to do for others. And, you know, to not have to stress about, you know, the bills or any of those things right now at all. To also know, you know, that all my children are just in a good and in a healthy place right now. And then when it came to reflecting on Sage's birthday this year, it was just so different. We were in just such a different place. So I think for me, like trials are going to come, you know, bad things are going to happen. Those things are going to happen. Like I know again and again down the road, but I know that no matter what, like my prayers to God, they're going to be the same. You know, my worship, it's going to be the same because my thankfulness to God is not due to my circumstances or due to how happy I am or those things. And so now I look back and I'm thankful for those situations. But at the time, I wasn't. I was like super, super frustrated. But yeah.
Wow.
I love how God, even in those little things that we want for our kids, how he just, you know, like, and it's not even little because it's stuff that well, she's little, but she doesn't necessarily know she wants it. But even though we want it for them, God still provides it. And then to do it in that way, I thought was so cool. Yeah. You know, to do it that then you're, you know, here's, what do they call you, Bina?
Yeah.
Bina comes. I mean, you know, it's just so awesome. I love it.
And the funny thing is that I had gone to, you know, because Toys R Us had closed down way back when, I don't even remember when it was. I do a lot of shopping for the grandkids. I was first hit the thrift stores up. And I was like, look at this basketball. It was in perfect shape. I was like, $8? I'm getting that. I don't know who needs it, but I just threw it in my trunk, you know.
It's cute.
And here it was the prompting of and I'm not even going to make it sound spiritual. I was just doing my thing, just finding something good and throwing it in my car, you know. But that's how God is. I wrote down how God cares about the little details of the things that we want. The little details. And you know, people who are listening, you might be thinking like, I'm going without this, I'm going without that, my kid needs this, you know. Give it to God. I'm telling you, give it to God. Those quiet, silent, heartfelt prayers that we utter all the time. I mean, I have them in my heart right now. I haven't said a word. I just say, God, can you meet that need? You know, can you meet that need? Can you just show up and just do your thing? And I think that's the beauty of God. And that's the faithfulness of God, Briani, in your life, just to see how things have turned. And you said, you know, at the beginning, no matter how ugly our story starts or how ugly it gets, it's not the end.
right.
And we all give a shout out to
Amen.
Yeah.
Shout out, hallelujah.
Yes.
it's not the end.
Yeah,
Like,
amen.
it's not the end.
Yeah.
You know, he's still writing chapters. He's still
Yeah.
finishing chapters. You know, maybe chapter 2 doesn't have an ending yet, and you've already moved on to 3 and 4. That's okay. He's going to come back to your 2. And that's
Amen.
a big part of what I want to share, because this is going to be a part 1 and part 2 conversation. We're not going to get it all in. We're going to actually wrap up tonight, but a big part of my story is connected to Briani. You know, Briani and she's my oldest, and you can agree, Briani, we weren't always on good terms way back yonder.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to share my story. What God put on my heart was to talk about our relationship and how God has been faithful to not only heal our relationship, but restore it completely. And so she has no idea that I'm going to talk about her next week, but I guess she just found out. I tell them, y'all gave me good content. Good content. Off limits. Went through it, I get to talk about it. So, and I love it because I know it's going to help others. It's just a big part of my story. But Briani, you just talked about how God cares about the details and just even being envious of what others have. Have we all not been there one time or another?
Yep.
You want a house and sister girl gets a house. You need a car and they got 4 cars. You're like, what about me? Everybody, can anybody relate to that before we wrap up?
Definitely.
Both hands.
Both hands and feet, right, Jody?
I think the biggest part that I've learned in what you just said is that if I try to do it myself because I'm envious, maybe I can find a way to do something to make me partly happy. But when you sit back and you just wait and you say, God, you're faithful, and you wait and you let God take over what he does, it's like he gives you the sundae, but then he puts a cherry on top.
Oh yeah.
The way to put it.
He finds like, a way that it's like, all right, Bree, hey, maybe you couldn't get the house when you wanted to and you had to put it on hold. But, less than a year later, and we were able to sign and get our first home. And I never would have thought we'd be building it and it'd be brand new. So it's like, God's ways are just better. And like, it's just amazing.